Hi, I'm Pat Halpin, and welcome to this special edition of Meet the Leaders here at our state's Capitol. We've been joined by New York State Assemblyman Fred Thiele. Happy New Year. Today is the day the legislature says, okay, we're in business for 2019.
Yeah, the 2019 session begins today. It's the first day is, fairly ceremonial. The new members get sworn in. It's certainly a lot happening on the other side of the building in the Capitol with the switch in the Senate.
So let's talk about that. I remember back in my days, I was one of the first Democrats elected to the Assembly in a long, long time in my part of Suffolk County. And I realized quickly, there really aren't two parties as Democrats and Republicans. There's the majority in the Senate and the majority in the Assembly. And whether it's Republicans or now Democrats in the Senate, you've got to work together if you want to get anything done.
Exactly. And, regardless of party affiliation. The other thing I find that just
by the way, you're an independent.
I'm an independent. And so that has allowed me really to work with both sides of the aisle very, very well. But now we have Democratic majorities in both houses. What you find out in Albany that just as important as parties, Democrats and Republicans, is geography also.
Yes. And I think that trumps party. To use a bad pun.
Yeah, on many, many issues. For example, education aid. There are no Democrats and Republicans. There's Long Island, and we're fighting as Long Islanders to make sure that Long Island gets its fair share of education aid.
And when it comes to the environment as well, whether you're a D or an R or an I or a C, whatever party you are, protecting the environment, especially water quality, is essential. So talk to me about your priorities when it comes to water quality, because you've got some real challenges in your part of Suffolk County.
Water quality, certainly on the east end of Long Island, water, it's not just the environment, it's also our economy, because we depend on clean water, whether it's agriculture or tourism or sports fishing, commercial fishing, it all depends on clean water. And we have seen a trend on Long Island of declining water quality that we need to reverse, and something that both of us have been very involved in, you in your capacity with the Suffolk County Water Authority, is this issue of emerging chemicals. So, we need to continue, I think we've made a good start, to reverse the trend on water quality. You need good policy, but you also need the money to do it. And we've got the Bond Act on the state level, the Community Preservation Fund. So we're working together. We'll focus on that this year.
And to fill that in, what's happening is that these contaminants are showing up in private wells that people have relied on for a long time in the rural parts of Suffolk County.
Exactly.
And you worked day and night to make sure you could hook them up to Suffolk County Water Authority, to public water.
Yeah.
That would guarantee that they would have high quality drinking water.
Well, out on the East End, people used to take pride in having their own private well, and that independence. We have our own well. We don't need to be part of the public water system, but that has changed, and really more and more of the East End is getting hooked up to public water. I think that almost, our goal ultimately has to be to hook up everybody to public water to ensure safe drinking water.
But that doesn't come cheaply.
Does not. It's about money. Or, as often said, government decisions often are about money, and having the resources set aside on the state level, the county level, the local level about water quality. And it's just not water main extensions, it's also upgrading septic systems and things of that nature.
And of course, treating the wells that provide the public water to make sure that they meet and exceed the water quality standards, which are going to be made more rigorous, especially in New York State.
Yeah, it looks like, particularly with regard to emerging chemicals, we're learning more and more about what the standards should be. The federal government hasn't acted, so the state will be acting to set standards for a number of these emerging contaminants.
So public water is important. Let's talk about another priority for you, which is affordable housing, or the lack thereof.
Yeah, affordable housing, it's been a problem on Long Island for many, many years, but it's gotten worse. And that is something else that's always also going to take money. And my idea is to create the equivalent of the Community Preservation Fund for the issue of affordable housing, a dedicated fund, add an extra 0.5% to the real estate transfer tax, utilize that fund, that additional 0.5% for assistance to first-time home buyers, assistance to towns to construct housing. we really run the risk of losing a whole generation of Long Islanders.
How serious is the housing crisis I'm talking about for working families? We're talking about middle-class working families who have children out there, and they'll say, well, I work at the local school, I work for the town, I have my own business. Is it more acute out on the East End than it is, let's say, up Island?
Well, I think it's acute across Long Island, but I think the East End in particular, because you have so many people who want a second home out there, who compete with people that want to stay there year-round and are driving up the prices.
So communities that used to be reasonably affordable for year-round residents are now people are being priced out.
They're being priced out. And
like Springs, for example.
Springs is a good example. Yeah. Hampton Bays is an example.
Hampton Bays is another one.
And all you have to do is look at the numbers. And if you look at the census numbers on Long Island, we are losing population amongst people that are in their 20s and 30s. And you're seeing that just not in the census numbers, but also in the drop in the number of children in the school system, because the childbearing years, those people are leaving Long Island.
So another priority for you is to create an affordable housing fund to really make
that'll be a priority for 2019.
Let's talk about, we only have about a minute or so left. I want to talk about something that every time we've had conversations, you said, I'm going to get the Long Island Railroad to really make the eastern part of Long Island, from kind of Spioc out to Montauk, a real commuter line.
Right.
Because otherwise it was kind of episodic. It would happen a couple of times a day. The train would come through.
Well, exactly.
How's that going?
Well, affordable housing and the railroad are related, because you have a lot of people now who live further west because they can't afford to live on the East End, who are travel to their jobs on the East End. We're having tremendous traffic congestion. The Long Island Railroad has been great. They've agreed to provide 4 additional trains every day, 2 eastbound in the morning, 2 westbound in the afternoon. We've provided money on the state level to get people from the train stations to their jobs through shuttle buses. This is all going to begin on March 4th. It's only about 2 months away. So we're excited. It's been the railroad, Senator Laval, myself, working with East Hampton and Southampton Town to provide this service, and it's finally going to happen on March 4th.
That's going to be awesome. I'll never forget, I was staying out in Montauk, but I had to come up to Babylon where I live, and I hopped on the train at Montauk, and as it stopped at all the stations, it got more crowded and more crowded. Now, we're not just talking about people who are commuting to New York City. We're talking about people who are going from there to their next job. And then on the way back, it was the same thing. And I said, this is very interesting, because people use this line to get from, let's say, Patchogue, to their job in Bridgehampton.
Yeah. And the railroad, who viewed their mission basically as about by getting people from Long Island to New York City in the morning and then getting them back in the afternoon, now realize that intra-island commuting, within Long Island is an important factor. And there's a whole market out there on the East End of Long Island that thankfully they're beginning to tap into.
And and if you build it, they will come.
I believe they will, and we're about to find out.
All right, Fred Thiele, thanks so much. Have a great year.
Thank you, Pat.
It's great to see you again. That's going to do it for this special edition from Albany. I'm Pat Halpin. We'll see you again.